What's going on, Dolphins? It is your boy Dillon, and this is finally my post-game analysis video for the Seattle Seahawks game yesterday at Hard Rock Stadium. I'm still waiting on my new hard drive for my computer, as I mentioned in the previous video, which you guys obviously haven't seen yet as of me making this. And it should be on the way. It should be here tonight. In which case I will then put my videos all together and upload them for you guys. It'll be a lot all at once, so I apologize for that. But such as it is, unfortunately, because my current hard drive is full, it is not allowing me to, create my videos. It's causing an issue with my software, and it's not letting me do that. So, at least not without some problems along the way. So I'm waiting for that to get here. Like I said, it should be here hopefully this evening, and I'll get that up to you guys as soon as possible. So I just want to apologize for that, but let's go ahead and get right into it, because there is definitely plenty to talk about. And I rewatched these games, or rewatched the game, and took my notes. I got the stats for you, and look, I know I have a differing opinion than most people, as per the usual. Most people thought that the Dolphins played a really good game, and I just don't think that's the case at all. As a matter of fact, the defense was pretty horrid pretty much the entire game. The Seattle Seahawks had their way with us almost every single play. The only reason why, and I will show evidence throughout this, that in different aspects, that the only thing that really stopped the Seattle offense was themselves. Miscommunications, overthrows, drop passes, so on and so forth. And frankly, the Dolphins offense didn't do much shit at all. They could not get into the end zone to save their fucking lives. They were moving the ball, but as Pete Carroll says, we don't mind giving up yards, it's the points. And they couldn't get in the fucking end zone, so they couldn't cap off drives. Ryan Fitzpatrick threw 2 interceptions, but there were 3 additional interceptions, or potential interceptions. Passes that should have been intercepted. It was KJ Wright, coincidentally, on all 3 of them, and he just couldn't squeeze the ball. It literally hit him right in the hands, and he just couldn't squeeze it. So, all said, all in all, it just really was not a good performance by the Dolphins, and there was some bad coaching as well to point out in particular. So, real quick, going into this though, there was obviously some pretty key injuries. Now, it is worth noting that first and foremost, the Seattle Seahawks are extremely banged up, even just going into this game, and yet still they beat us pretty handedly. Quick side note, I was pretty close in my score prediction for like the first time ever. So that's, some minor, victory, I guess. Not really. We lost and it sucked. So not really. But I was kind of close. I thought it'd be 35-24. It ended up being 31-23. But yeah, so they're banged up. Almost half of their roster is listed on their injury report. And then, of course, they go into this game, missing some very key starters, including their rookie linebacker, Jordan Brooks, Quentin Dunbar, cornerback, and safety Jamal Adams. And that's the thing is, so going into this, if you take that into context, now, obviously, those players weren't there. So they didn't have an impact on the game. But if they weren't hurt, if they weren't injured, and Jamal Adams was in there, if Quentin Dunbar and Jordan Brooks were still in there, people say that we did a good job on offense. I disagree with that, especially when you take everything into account. But I'm pretty sure it would have been even, worse off than it was, in the game, right? And then the touchdown we finally scored wasn't until the very end, when we needed 2 touchdowns and 2-point conversions just to tie the game. So that's pretty much useless, and frankly, I don't really, count it. That was a touchdown basically just to make the loss less embarrassing. So, whatever. But yeah, and so you go into it, you take that into account. Well, if they had those players, we probably would have performed even worse than we did on offense, but we lucked out they didn't have them. But then, like I said, there was 3 interceptions, potential interceptions. So Ryan Fitzpatrick nearly threw 5 picks in this game. Had he done that, that would have wiped off 3 of our field goals. We scored 23 points. You knock off 3 field goals, that leaves you with what? 14 points. Okay. And then of course, as I mentioned, which I'll get to the details here in just a minute, the Seattle Seahawks likely would have scored more points than they did if they didn't shoot themselves in the foot and have a couple bad calls against them as well. There were 1 or 2 bad calls against the Dolphins as well in this game. But and ultimately that kind of evened out. So, I won't really talk too much about that. I will mention, 1 or 2. But for the most part, that's just kind of a wash. But let's go ahead and actually get into these statistics and, get into detail of what I'm talking about to explain and, further what I mean when I say that the Dolphins didn't actually perform all that well. So even though there were some things that are, still encouraging, right, that you would like to see, but again, somewhat misleading at the same time. So obviously the Dolphins lost 31-23. We are now 1-3 on the season. The Tua conversation is heating back up again, whatever. The Seahawks are now 4-0. We had 415 total yards to their 441, so they still edged us out in that regard. But, total yards, solid. We had 312 passing yards, solid. Over 100 yards rushing, 103. So, solid. They met some of the, what I would consider to be some of the, baseline benchmarks. But I told you that was not going to be anywhere near enough if we were going to try and beat a team like the Seattle Seahawks, and it clearly wasn't. And again, I think those stats are a little bit inflated because if they would have had those defenders that they were missing, it wouldn't have been even that good. And frankly, with the potential interceptions, some of our points should have been, taken off with that, etc., etc. But they had 343 passing yards and 98 rushing yards. We did have 6.1 yards per play, which is great. And you would love to be able to celebrate something like that, but it doesn't matter for shit when you can't get the win or you can't put it in the fucking end zone. Same thing with the 53% third down conversion rate, right? Like, what the fuck, right? They had 7.1 yards per play and 40% on third downs. Neither team had lost a fumble. We officially threw 2 interceptions. They threw 1. We had the ball for 33 minutes and 9 seconds to their 26-51. So we won the time of possession battle as well, and so when you win, in rushing yards and, third down conversion rate, time of possession, some of those things you would think, and, you put up decent stats like 415 total yards, 312 passing, 103 rushing, 6.1 yards per play. You're like, man, that's a pretty damn good job on its face until you actually watch the game tape, see how they actually performed with your own eyes, and then also take into account other information. Things that theoretically, I suppose, don't matter, like the fact that there were injured players that didn't play in this game since they weren't physically there, so they didn't have an impact. But if they were there, they certainly would have, and it wouldn't have been, as good of a performance as some people think it was from this Dolphins team. And the reason why I talk about those is because it is relevant. Like, you gotta be, especially considering the fact that it is going to be so hard to evaluate almost any team this season because of, COVID and the fucked up off season and the ungodly amount of injuries. So you got to do your best to evaluate your team and your players, etc., in all of the different situations possible, right? So you can't just say, well, they weren't there, so they don't count. That's not true. Those are still players on the team. And, let's say for the Bills, for example, right? Because we played the Bills, and I use that as an example of why the Dolphins didn't do as well as it would seem in that game as well, because they didn't have Matt Milano and Tremaine Edmonds. We're going to play them again. We're not going to play the Seattle Seahawks again, but we are going to play them again. So, we'll see if they have, a relatively healthy squad, if they have Matt Milano and Tremaine Edmonds back, which as of right now, I do believe both of those guys are back. I know Matt Milano is for sure. Then we'll see. We'll see if we're able to attack the middle of the field as effectively as we did the first time, right? But if we played the Seattle Seahawks again and they had Quentin Dunbar and Jamal Adams and Jordan Brooks and, weren't so banged up, my guess is that it would be different and it would have been more one-sided. Also, if they didn't, have so many personal mistakes on their side. It was more so like the commentary kept giving the Dolphins defense like a ton of credit that they didn't deserve. Right? There was not even a handful. There was like 2 or 3 plays, maybe 4 plays in the entire game that the Dolphins defense made that was good, including a Xavier Howard interception in the end zone. But other than that, they were pretty garbage and they were getting beat all day. The commentators were also praising Noah Igbenogany for how well he's been playing. And it's just not really even true. I'm not trying to shit on the kid. He is a rookie, so there's, in the fucked up offseason, he got thrown in there with Byron Jones being out. So it's not necessarily his fault, but he's just not good. So it hasn't been all that good, right? Even in this game, he got beat several times. So did Howard, by the way. And I do want to give you his pro football grades currently. Because you can tell, and I mentioned this in my live stream, you can tell he's not really playing at full strength or whatever. Anyway, real quick, we had 3 accepted penalties and they had 0 in the game. So that's interesting as well. All right, let's move on though, because there definitely is more commentary, and I do want to start move through these stats. So Ryan Fitzpatrick was 29 of 45, 64.4 completion percentage, 15 yards, 0 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, and a 66.4 passer rating. Russell Wilson was 24 of 34, 70.6% completion percentage, 360 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception, and a 112.4 passer rating. Rushing, Ryan Fitzpatrick led the way for us, which is never good. 6 rushes for 47 yards, a touchdown, and a 7.8 average. If he had those numbers in addition to, Myles Gaskin and Breida and Howard getting a bunch of touches. By the way, I only list them here if they had more than 10 yards. So Jordan Howard and Matt Breida, they did have some carries and some yardage, but neither of them broke 10 yards, so I didn't, add them in. But, and then Gaskin had 10 for 40 for an average of 4. If Ryan Fitzpatrick had those numbers and it was addition to a really great running game, and look, because our running game was 47 yards of Ryan Fitzpatrick and we only had 103. So our run game wasn't even all that great. From our running backs, the best we had was Myles Gaskin, 10, for 40 yards. And if you take away Ryan Fitzpatrick's 47, that leaves us with 56 yards. Just obviously not anywhere near good enough. Whereas conversely, right, I told you I only put players on the list if they had 10 plus yards. They had 1 running back, Chris Carson, 16 rushes, the same amount of touches that Fitzpatrick and Gaskin had together, and roughly the same amount of yards, right? Together, Fitzpatrick and Gaskin had 87 yards. Chris Carson had 80. And he was coming into this game banged up as well. Not to mention, he had 2 rushing touchdowns. So more than double the rushing touchdowns than our entire team had, and a 5 average. So right there, kind of in between Ryan Fitzpatrick and Myles Gaskin on an average. But it's just not anywhere close to good enough. And just another example and data point that shows the Dolphins did not really perform all that well in this game. I get trying to, there have been some positive things sprinkled in. Also, let's note though that the Dolphins defense is worse than the league in red zone defense. Let alone they're just not all that great. They're in the bottom half for pretty much all statistics, I'm pretty sure. I think, as a matter of fact, going into this game, every one of their standings was at least 20 or lower. And they just did not perform all that well in this game. Anyway, so receiving leader for us was Devontae Parker, 10 for 12, 110 yards, no touchdowns. Now, after last game, he was, I think, if I'm not mistaken, it was 5 of 5 or 5 of 6 for 67, 69 yards, somewhere in there. And I said, look, he needs to be more dominant. He needs more targets, more catches, more yards. Well, he got that in this game, but he didn't put up any fucking touchdowns. And we couldn't fucking score to save our lives. So, again, still not even fucking really there. You're throwing up some yards and some catches and stuff, but you got to get the fucking touchdowns too. The points are what matter. Like Seattle Seahawks coach and many other great coaches have said, we don't care about giving up yards, right? Bend, don't break. Bend, but don't break. We'll give up the yards, but we're not going to let you fucking score. And so, the offense did not perform all that well. If you're going to just rely on 5 field goals and, you get your one touchdown in fucking the last 2 minutes of the game when it doesn't fucking matter at all, your offense didn't perform well. And your run game fucking sucks. Your offense didn't perform well. And the defense didn't perform well either. The vast majority of the stops, or at least half of the stops, if not all of them, which we'll get to in a minute, were because of mistakes by the Seattle Seahawks and not defensive plays by the Dolphins. There were like a couple, and I'll get to those. But it was overwhelmingly the mistakes by the Seattle Seahawks and not us. Anyway, Isaiah Ford was 4 of 10, 48 yards. Matt Breida, 3 of 3, 39. Jakeem Grant, 3 of 4, 36. Durham Smythe, 2 of 3 for 30. Myles Gaskin, 3 of 4 for 22. Mike Gesicki, 1 of 3 for 15. Again, he needs to dominate a lot more as well. And they're just not. Preston Williams, 1 of 3, 15 yards. So they did good, spreading around and getting it to a lot of different receivers, but obviously, again, still not even close to enough. DK Metcalf was killing us for most of the game. 4 of 6, 106 yards. No touchdowns for him, though, although there was one that he probably should have had. It was close. Anyway, we won't get into that. David Moore, 3 of 4, 95 yards and a touchdown. Tyler Lockett, 2 of 4, 39 yards. Greg Olsen, 5 of 7 for 35 yards. Freddie Swain, 2 of 3, 32. Chris Carson, 3 of 4 for 20. DJ Dallas, 2 of 2 for 15. Will Dissly, 2 of 2 for 15. And Travis Homer, 1 of 1, 3 yards and a touchdown. Fumbles, Jordan Howard had one but didn't lose it. Chris Carson had one but didn't lose it. Defensively, Landon Roberts had 6 solo tackles and 3 assisted, 1 tackle for loss and a forced fumble. Eric Rowe, 6 solo tackles. Bobby McCain, 4 solo and a pass defense. Kyle Van Noy, 4 solo tackles. Emmanuel Ogbah, 3 solo, 2 assisted, 1 sack and 2 tackles for loss. Devon Godshaw had 3 solo, 2 assisted. Jamal Perry, 3 solo, 1 assisted tackle and a pass defense. Xavier Howard, 3 solo tackles, 1 interception and a pass defense. And Shaq Lawson, 1 solo, 1 assisted, 1 sack, 1 tackle for loss. And again, I only put these guys in the list if they have at least 3 solo tackles, or if they have additional stats in addition to tackles. So in Shaq Lawson's case, 1 solo, 1 assisted, but he also had a sack and a tackle for loss. But now, when you look at these defensive statistics for the Seattle Seahawks, this also lends to how they stopped the Dolphins offense. They had 12 passes defensed, for fuck's sake. Okay? The 2 interceptions, 3 additional potential interceptions. They only ended up having 1 sack, but they had 4 tackles for loss as well, not to mention tackles all over the place. It's not even really comparable. Bobby Wagner, 10 solo tackles, 2 assisted, and a pass defense. And he should have had 3 interceptions. Or no, I'm sorry, this is KJ Wright, the next person. But see, okay, hold on though, because KJ Wright, 6 solo tackles, 2 assisted, 1 forced fumble, and 3 passes defensed. Though all 3 of those passes defensed should have been interceptions. All 3 of them hit the dude right in the fucking hands, and he couldn't squeeze it. Ryan Neal, 5 solo, 1 assisted, 1 interception for 1 yard, and 2 passes defense. Trey Flowers, 4 solo, 3 assisted. I'm sorry, I'm gonna fuck up a couple people's names here. Uga Chukwu Amadi, 3 solo tackles and 2 passes defense. Benson Mayowa, 3 solo with a tackle for loss. Cody Barton, 1 solo, 3 assisted, and a pass defense. Anthony Rush, 1 solo, 2 assisted, a half sack, and a tackle for loss. Brian Monet, 1 solo, 1 assisted, and a half sack. Puna Ford, 1 solo tackle, 1 tackle for loss. Alton Robinson, 1 solo tackle, 1 tackle for loss. And Shaquille Griffin, 1 assisted tackle, 1 interception for 16 yards, and 3 passes defense. Yeah, Jason Sanders in the kicking game was 5 of 5 on his field goals. So, that's great, I guess. But Not really. 4 or 5. Excuse me. 45, a long of 45, so that was his longest one. No extra points, because even though we did score a touchdown, we went for a 2-point conversion. Jason Myers, 1-1 on his field goal, long of 55, but conversely had, or additionally had made all 4 of his extra points. So clearly, it's better to have 4 touchdowns and a field goal than it is 5 motherfucking field goals and a touchdown. And that's the thing too, that it's another data point that shows we actually did not perform all that well, because we had 6 scoring drives. Now you would think, okay, great, 6 scoring drives, but not really when fucking 5 of them are field goals, and you can only get your fucking touchdown in the last 2 minutes of the game when you're down by 16 points and it doesn't matter. Oh, okay, great, you did fucking wonderful. Really? Who fucking looks at that and says, yeah, they did great? Nobody intelligent. I'm sorry, like, people get upset at me because of, you know, the reality that I speak and the truth that I speak and the fact that I point out stupidity and, you know, the fact that, I mean, whatever, dude, I don't care. Like, people just need to wake up, bro. Like, the shit is fucking, I'm just, like, really sick and tired of people ignoring fucking the reality that's literally in front of their face. Anyway, in the punt game, Matt Hawk had 1 punt for 51 yards. It did not land inside the 20, so none inside the 20. Michael Dixon had 2 for an average of 46, 1 inside the 20 and a long of 58. In the kickoff return, Durham Smythe had 1 because they did a squib kick towards the end of the game. He had 1 return of 5 yards. Travis Homer had 2 for 17.5 with a long of 29. And in the punt return game, Jakeem Grant had 1 for 11 yards, and they didn't return any punts. Okay, so key points and analysis. Did we win? No, obviously not. That fucking sucks. We are now 1-3, but you know, it's really, frankly, pretty much as expected to this point in the season. As far as I'm concerned, it's pretty much as expected to this point. So the game breakdown: in the first quarter, Dolphins received the ball to start the game. They threw an interception after just 4 plays. To be fair, though, this actually was not one that was really all on Ryan Fitzpatrick, right? So it was a 2nd down. It was a pass intended for Smythe. It ended up being a 1-yard return, but it was an interception by Ryan Neal, and it materialized because there was an edge rush. I can't remember the player that got there, but there was an edge rush that nicked Fitzpatrick's arm, right? So he got around, he got just enough of Fitzpatrick's arm, caused an errant throw. It bounced off the hands of one Seattle defender and right into the hands of another. So not really, Fitzpatrick's fault, but he does still get the stat, right? Whereas the 3 non-interceptions that KJ Wright should have had were 100% Ryan Fitzpatrick's fault. He threw it straight into the fucking hands of the defender. So there's that. And then the other one, off the top of my head, we'll get to it at, later on. I don't remember if that one was his fault. I'll recall when we get there. Let me just continue on for now, and I'll get to it when I get to it. Seahawks then score a touchdown after just 6 plays. And real quick, let me just show you their plays. So first of all, it was only 6 plays. They get the interception. They only go 6 plays. It didn't take them very long. And so it's another data point to show that they just moved over us, and it was way too fucking easy. Our defense didn't stop fucking shit. On first down, it was a 5-yard catch to Olsen, and then on second down, it was a 37-yard catch to Metcalf with Xavier Howard in coverage. Then on first down, it was a run to Carson for 7. Second down, a run to Carson for 5. First down, a run to Carson for 2. And second down, a run to Carson for 1 yard and a touchdown. So then, they get the big play to Metcalf, 37 yards over our top corner, who obviously isn't, playing at full speed. So not totally his fault, but, it still sucks. And then they just did 4 running plays and just ran it down our throat and got it into the end zone. And they never had a third down on that drive. Didn't take them very long. They moved easy, right? No fucking problems. So, I mean, the idea that the Dolphins performed well, it's just not factual. Okay, then on the next drive, Dolphins go 3 and out. To be fair, though, again, on this one, the Dolphins did get a little bit fucked over by a bad call. Now, again, there were several bad calls, including a couple in the second half that I'm not even really going to mention because at the end of the day, like I said, they didn't even really matter. But there were some on both teams as well. So just, for full context, I want to make sure to mention it. But anyway, so in this case, on this drive, it was third down and it was a pass to Gesicki for 7 yards. He caught it and they got the first down. But Fitz was called for an illegal forward pass because they said that he had crossed the line of scrimmage. He scrambled, and they said he crossed the line of scrimmage before he threw the ball. That would be an illegal forward pass. I actually thought so too in the live bullets, right? It looked like it, but then on the replay, it was actually pretty clear that both of his feet, were behind the line of scrimmage. And the rule states that you only need a single body part behind the line of scrimmage, not even the ball. The ball doesn't have to be there, just a single body part. And it looked like both feet were, and, we kind of got screwed. But at the same time, Flores didn't challenge it. I don't know why. Maybe they didn't think, but he could have, and he didn't. So, again, just added context I just want to throw in there. On the next drive, Seattle then punts after 4 plays. But there is something that I did want to mention here. There was a third down, and it was a pass to Metcalf. Now, this drive, the primary reason why this drive ended was because Metcalf just dropped this pass. It hit him right in the hands. It was like right here. So it hit him in the hands, a little bit in the face mask, whatever. But he's a big receiver. He's strong. He's got pretty good hands. Like, he shouldn't have dropped this pass. It was more of a drop than it was the defensive play. To be fair, Bobby McCain did come in with a pretty solid hit, but he pretty much, especially as you watch it again, he pretty much just bounced right off him because Bobby McCain is far smaller than DK Metcalf is, and he pretty much just bounced right off him. It was more the fact that Metcalf dropped the pass than it was anything else. And it was a deep pass that would have resulted in more than just a first down. It would have picked up like 20 yards or something like that. McCain did have the nice hit, like I said. He got temporarily hurt. They thought he might have had a concussion. He got taken off to be evaluated. Ended up coming back in, so that's good. And I will mention a few Dolphins at the end of this that have at least minor injuries that are going to have to keep, we'll have to keep an eye on going forward, especially as the season continues to be injury riddled. So anyway, but that, like I said, that was much less of a factor than Metcalf's drop. So this was the first instance of a drive ending, a Seattle offensive drive ending because of their mistake. It was far more their mistake than it was us making the defensive play. Anyway, then we get the ball back, and then the Dolphins proceed to move downfield just to kick a field goal after 9 plays. But this is, on this drive, is one of the drives that, I believe this was our second field goal, if I'm not mistaken. No, actually, this was our first field goal of the game. So, anyway, on this drive, there was a first down play that was intended for Preston Williams, a pass. The reason why I'm talking about this is because it was an incomplete pass, and this was the first one that should have been picked off by KJ Wright. He just couldn't squeeze the ball, but Fitzpatrick threw it right into his fucking hands. So this was the first of 3 potential, and look, I don't know who all has Game Pass or whatever, but you could go back and look at the film. He threw the ball right into his hands. KJ Wright just couldn't squeeze it. Had he, it would have been his second interception of the game. But there was 2 interceptions that were official, or that happened, and 3 potential interceptions. This was the first. But another, data point that shows, we really likely didn't actually even perform as well as it would seem, or some people think. Because, again, we just kind of got lucky there. We got lucky. That drive should have ended. We should not have gotten that 3 points. 3 of our drives should have ended, and 9 points should not be on the board. Should not have been on the board if KJ Wright just would have fucking come down with the ball like he should have. I guess his hands aren't very good because he dropped 3 potential picks. I mean, he could have had one hell of a game. Anyway, then after that, Seattle kicks a field goal after 6 plays. There's a couple points of emphasis here. There was a second down. In fact, it was 2 consecutive plays. There was, towards the end of their drive, there was a second down that was a incomplete pass to Lockett. Again, it would have been a big gainer, probably like 15 to 20 yards. It would have got them another first down, and it would have gotten the it would have gotten the Seattle Seahawks in the Dolphins 20. They would have been in the red zone. Okay, but this was the second mistake that cost them a potential touchdown, or, whatever, or instead of the field goal, because they ended up kicking a field goal. And once they got down in the red zone, honestly, if we're just keeping it real, they likely would have gotten the touchdown. I guess you could say there's still some chance the Dolphins, with the worst red zone defense in the league, would have stopped them, but probably not, right? Again, people can call me negative for just being realistic, but that's just the reality of it. They're not good. They're not good. The defense has been pretty terrible the entire season, and they're the worst in the league in red zone defense. So if you think that, okay, I guess, but the likelihood is that they would have fucking gotten a score. But DJ Lockett dropped the pass. And so that's on him. And there wasn't, in this case, a defender didn't even hit him. He just flat out dropped it, okay? But then, on the very next play, it was a third down, and it was an incompletion to David Moore. And this was the third mistake that they made, that they shot themselves in the foot, because they even could have completed this and gotten the first down there. It wouldn't have been quite as long of a gain, but it would have been a first down on a third down play. Okay. And it was, it appears that there was a miscommunication between Russell Wilson and his receivers. So Moore, he looked like or I guess what Russell Wilson wanted was more of a post kind of route out of him, but he ended up like curling back and coming back to the ball, stopping and coming back to the ball. And so Russell Wilson overthrew it. If it wasn't for those two Seattle mistakes, mental errors, then odds are that drive would have ended in 7 points instead of just 3. And then the Dolphins get the ball back. They end the quarter after just 1 play. Going into the second quarter, then the Dolphins kick a field goal after 6 plays. There is a point of emphasis here on this drive. On third down, there was a incomplete pass to Ford. It was a shot to the end zone. This is the second time KJ Wright nearly picked the pass and just couldn't fucking come down with it. And so, this is the second of Ryan Fitzpatrick's potential interceptions, right? So that would have wiped away 3 points after we had driven down the field, gotten all the way down there, blah, 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 and then just have to because this was a pretty long drive and we moved down the field, right? But then we had to settle for the field goal because the offense is not all that great and they just couldn't punch it in. And it was in part because on third down, Ryan Fitzpatrick nearly threw what would have been his third pick of the game, but his second potential pick that we just got lucky on because KJ Wright couldn't squeeze it. Then on the next Seattle drive, it was a Seattle turnover on downs after 13 plays. So for here, this was interesting. There was one particular play of note. It was a third down, and it was an incomplete pass to Olsen. There was an offensive holding play. So, I would actually even say in this particular case, the Dolphins did solid. They didn't do great, but they did solid on defense. Whatever. Olsen probably could have got the pass or could have caught the catch, but it is what it is. Either way, because there was a holding penalty, but Brian Flores declined it, and I wouldn't have, because they were at the Dolphins' 18-yard line. It was 3rd and 3 when they started that play, right? And then the incomplete pass makes it go to 4th and 3 because they declined the penalty. If they would have accepted the penalty, it would have pushed them back 10 yards. So instead of being at the Dolphins' 18-yard line, they would have been at the Dolphins' 28-yard line. So that's one potential bonus. But also, sure, it would not have been 4th down, but it would have been 3rd and 13. Okay? So in that case, if it's 3rd and 13, you push them back. Your defense isn't really performing all that great anyway, but 3rd and 13 is hard to pick up. So you probably could have at the very least, kept them out of, 4th and 3 or something longer than 4th and 3, right? The odds at least would have been in your favor to give them a 4th down that was longer than 4th and 3, right? Because then what ended up happening was they went for it on 4th and 3. So there are a couple potential downsides major downsides to not pushing them back. Is one, they could have picked up 4th and 3, which for a Seattle team is actually not unheard of. Or, you know, maybe they could have just done a hard count and gotten one of our young players to jump, get a free 5 yards, and get a first down this way. I would not have done that. He lucked out, I think, ultimately because they made a good defensive play call and the players executed. But there is still some luck there because the players still got to execute, right? So, I mean, whatever. I guess it's kind of, this in particular is a minor criticism, especially considering the fact that it ended up working out for them. But had they picked up the first down, then it would have been the complete opposite, right? So it was a total, in reality, it turned out to be a total success because after what I would consider to be a bad call in declining the penalty, they drew up a good defensive play and the players executed. But had they not, had, you know, they drawn us off sides, or had they just picked up the 3 yards on the play, you know, maybe it would have been Russell Wilson scrambling for it. Maybe he would have gotten out of the sack and picked it up, which is definitely possible. Then it would have been a complete bust, and then they likely would have put up another 7 points. So, you know, but anyway, we'll move on. Like I said, I mean, it's just too risky for me, and I would have taken the other option. Then we get the ball back. Dolphins kick after 9 plays, and I'm actually going to go through this entire drive simply because the way he handled this totally, I didn't like it at all, right? And I can kind of get some of the other arguments, but it proved to be a mistake. So, on first down, Gaskin gets a 9-yard catch. On second down, it was an incomplete pass to Adam Shaheen. On third down, it was a 3-yard catch to Chandler Cox. We pick up the first down. Next, it's a 12-yard catch to Smythe, another first down. And then Ryan Fitzpatrick gets sacked by Rush and Monet for 3 yards. Sets us back a little bit. 2nd and 16. Also the 2-minute warning. So we're now at 2 minutes at the end of the half. Okay, we're down to 2 minutes. After that, we come back. It's 2nd and 13. We get a 21-yard catch to Parker. Great. Awesome. Pick up the first down. Incomplete on first down. Okay, you know, whatever. Not terrible. Second down. Okay, we get the second down. There's about 1:15 left in the second half. All right. They run a play. It's second down. They pick up 6 yards to Parker. So now we're going to go to a 3rd and 4th, okay, at the Seattle 27-yard line. Okay, so the whistle blew dead after this play at about 1:10 left to go in the half with the Dolphins at the Seattle 27-yard line. So that was after they picked up the 6 yards. They needed 4 more yards to go to get a first down. 1:10. Brian Flores they had all 3 timeouts. They didn't call any timeouts. They just let the clock run. Okay, I get the argument of you just want to kind of, you know, get some points maybe towards the end of the half, especially since they get the ball after half. You want to try and close out the first half by getting some points, closing the lead, and then running out the clock. That is not what happened. And if you were with me in my live stream, I told you, man, like, I said this in the live stream. I was like, no, you know, I'd be calling a timeout here, and I would be trying to pick up this first down and, you know, then run out the clock by running more plays overall and potentially get yourself a touchdown and take the lead. Because that would have put us at 13-10 going into the half instead of how it ended. So anyway, instead of letting the clock, instead of letting the clock run down like Flores did, I would have called a timeout right around that 1:10 minute left in the second half, or in the second quarter rather, right? So you'd have had about 1:10 left to go. Then I would have dialed up a play that could get us the 4 yards. Just get the fucking 4 yards and get a first down. You would have still had 2 timeouts. You would have had plenty of time to move the rest of the field, and you would have had a fresh set of downs. Instead, they tried to pick up all 27 yards and get it on a fucking score to Jakeem Grant on a deep throw. I mean, why, dude? Just pick up, and even if you didn't get it on third down, you have another down. You have fourth down. The second quarter is about to end. right? People, and part of what pisses me off about this is people were praising Flores last year for being so aggressive, and we love it. Except every single time pretty much that he was aggressive, it failed miserably. Why? Because as I told you, there was only 2 reasons for his faux aggressiveness last year, his aggressiveness. And those reasons were, 1, so he could put off the optics of, you know, really trying to win the games, even though it was actually quite clear from multiple different perspectives and from multiple different data points that he was involved in throwing games or you know, putting the team in position to lose as opposed to win. He was part of the tanking philosophy. Part of that is because he admit that he was instrumental and had a hand in every single transaction that was made and helped to dismantle this team, but also with player personnel usage, play calling, the use of timeouts and challenges. There was so much evidence that proved that they were trying to lose games as much as possible to get as high a pick as possible. And so it pisses me off because, you know, he could have been aggressive and they probably could have taken the lead going into half. Instead, we'll get to this in just a minute, but it proved to be a massive fucking disaster. Because then instead, what ended up happening, they went for the deep corner pass to fucking Grant. It was a miss. This was, you know, and so they end up going to 4th down. Sanders kicks the field goal because they just want to get the fucking points. But then they have 24 seconds left to go on the clock. They kick the fucking, you know, whatever. They kick the ball off. It goes out of the end zone, comes out to the 25. You know, I think the first play picks up like 11 yards or something like that, if I remember off the top of my head. I think it was like an 11-yard pickup to Greg Olsen. But then on the very next play, it's a 57-yard bomb to fucking David Moore on a blown fucking coverage. And I believe it was Igbenogany who got fucking roasted. And then, you know, they end up scoring a fucking touchdown and bringing the lead to 17-9. Instead, had they done it my way, there's a very good likelihood that they actually could have gotten a touchdown. I mean, I suppose at some point they could have ended up just settling for the fucking field goal, but at least they would have wasted the clock and not given them an opportunity to fucking get a touchdown themselves, right? So they could have gone into the half either, you know, 13-10 with a lead, or maybe they would have still gone in or maybe they would have gone in 10-9, because even after getting the first down, even if they would have had to settle for the field goal, there wouldn't have been enough time left on the clock for Russell Wilson and their offense to just march right down the field and put up a fucking touchdown on us. So it was foolish. It was stupid. It just was terrible fucking coaching. Anyway, so, I mean, it's just a reality. People are going to hate me because I say the reality. Whatever. I don't give a fuck. All right, so getting into the third quarter, you know, I mean, they start with the ball, obviously, Seattle. And again, I mean, they just marched right down the field. Now, I can't say we got lucky because Xavier Howard made a great play on the ball. He just made a really good defensive play. But again, this was like the second out of like 3 or maybe 4 defensive plays that the Dolphins made the entire game. The rest of the drives, pretty much for the Seattle offense, was fucked up by their own mistakes. Anyway, but so, you know, on their first drive, they go 12 plays down the field, march downfield, get into the red zone, and then, you know, Xavier Howard comes up with his awesome interception to end the drive. But then the Dolphins don't do fucking shit with it. They get the ball, they go 9 plays down the field and, you know, kick another fucking field goal. So that was our 1 turnover. We lost the turnover battle. That was our 1 turnover. And okay, we got points on it, but it was just a field goal. On the other hand, they had 2 fucking turnovers, right? Officially, they had the 2 interceptions and got 14 points on them. You know, it just doesn't match up. It doesn't. 14-3 doesn't fucking match up. Anyway, then the Seahawks get it back. They punt after 4 plays. Dolphins get it back, end the quarter after 3 plays, and then start with the ball in the 4th quarter, and then end up kicking a field goal after another 14 plays. Okay, so all of that time wasted just to get another fucking field goal, but there were a couple points of interest on this drive. So there was a 2nd down pass to Gesicki that was incomplete, and again, Ryan Fitzpatrick puts it right in the midst of KJ Wright, and he just couldn't come down with it. That was the third potential interception. He had 2. He should have thrown another 3. If KJ Wright just had some fucking hands, he should have had another 3 picks. Anyway, and so just also another quick note, though, and, you know, this is a bit nitpicky, to be fair. But again, I mention it just because of how much people were praising Brian Flores for how aggressive he was last year, and he wasn't in this case when it would have been smart, or in a few cases in this game when it would have been smart. One earlier that I mentioned, but this one is, as well. I mean, I think instead of going for the field goal, they should have just gone for it, because it was late in the fourth quarter at this point, right? In this point of the game, you're down by 5 points, not a lot, right? But and a touchdown will get you the lead, right? But it's late in the fourth quarter, you're down by 5 points. A field goal is not going to fucking do anything for you, because it was 17-9, I think, at the time still. And this is what got us to 17-12, if I'm remembering correctly. And so, or no. So we were down by 5 points. No, so we were, whatever. I don't remember what the score was at the time. I should have marked it down, but I didn't. Anyway, point is, they should have fucking gone for it, because the field goal proved not to really fucking do anything, and they were at the Seattle 11-yard line. So even if they wouldn't have gotten it on fourth down, they would have been backed up. Sure, your defense is pretty terrible, but why the fuck not go for it? There was like 4 minutes left to go in the fourth quarter. You're down by, you know, a number of points that could potentially get you the lead if you get a touchdown. And if you want to prove to be an aggressive in smart times, now's the time to do it. You're down at their 11. Anyway, like I said, minor side note, whatever. Something I would have done differently, and I really only mention it because of how people praise Brian Flores for his aggressiveness, but I just don't think he's very good at knowing when to do it. And frankly, last year, I think it was intentional, the way he was aggressive, and that the results, I think the results were intentional. I think he meant to be intentionally over the top, so that way, you know, mistakes could be made, and they could lose. Anyway, Seahawks then go down and score a touchdown after just another 6 plays. Congratulations. Then the Dolphins get their second official interception after another 4 plays on the Dolphins' next drive. Then Seattle scores another touchdown after 2 plays after the pick. And then finally, with, you know, the last couple minutes of the game winding down, the Dolphins finally score a touchdown and get a 2-point conversion after 8 plays. And then finally, the Seahawks kill the clock after another 6 plays, and that's the end of the game. And again, just another little side note that probably doesn't really matter, but just because there was a third down on this drive. It was a 3-yard run by Carson. The Dolphins called and used their final timeout. Now, look, I get it. They're trying to, you know, they're trying to do what they can, you know, to affect the game by calling the timeouts and, you know, whatever, save themselves some time, whatever, right? So, but the problem is it was, I don't know, like a 3rd and 2 or something like that, right? Or a 3rd and 3, like they barely picked it up. I get you're trying to make sure to preserve as much time on the clock, but you had like 30 seconds anyway, and if it's a first down, it doesn't fucking matter, or however much time they had. It doesn't fucking matter if they get a first down. They ended up getting a fucking first down, so they wasted a timeout. Again, it probably really doesn't matter, because even if they did have the timeout, they would have got to stop one more play even after that, so it's probably not a criticism that's really even worth noting, but I'm noting it anyway. It's just a little something that I would have done a little different, but at the same time, it's also worth noting that I'm not a coach, so maybe that was actually the right decision. Just go ahead and fucking call the timeout to try and preserve as much clock, even if you don't really even necessarily know. I mean, and also, to be fair, this is a bit more of a unique circumstance, because I would think in general you would probably have a bit more clearer idea, and it wouldn't be so close, right? It wouldn't be such a close call. So I'm not really blaming him. You know, it's just, because it ended up like, you know, it ended up being a waste, and then they just got to kneel it 3 times, whatever. Like I said, probably a useless critique, but just throwing it out there. And then just really fast, I want to let you guys know about injuries. There were several players that at one point or another had something happen. So Bobby McCain went down on his, you know, hit of DJ Metcalf, where DJ Metcalf just dropped the pass. Again, it was far more DJ Metcalf's drop than it was his defensive play. He didn't get a hand on the ball or anything like that. He just bounced off of Metcalf's back. They thought he might have had an intercussion. I don't know what that is. A concussion. And so they, you know, he left the field and went into the locker room for evaluation. He ended up returning to the game, so it's good he doesn't have a concussion. And hopefully he and everybody else can stay healthy. Devontae Parker came off the field for a short time, although he also did return, but with an ankle injury. So apparently now he's got a calf and an ankle. Yay. Landon Roberts came off for a short time and was slow to get up, but I'm not really sure with what. They didn't mention anything, so I'm not sure what his injury was, but he did leave the field for a short time and did come back. Shaq Lawson also left the field for a short time and had to go to the locker room with a shoulder injury, but then also came back. Pretty much, I mean, all of these guys ended up coming back, so that's good. The reason why I mention it is one, because, you know, there have been so many injuries, and 2, you know, we're going to have to keep an eye on these guys because they could get injured or further injure, you know, these little injuries later on. Hopefully not, but we got to keep an eye on it. Austin Jackson, our left tackle, left at some point with I don't know what kind of an injury. And then Solomon Kindley, he didn't leave the field, but he was a little slow to get up after a play. And so again, and you know, going into this game, he also had a foot injury going into this game. So those are going to be things that we're definitely going to want to keep an eye on going forward and into these next games. So that's going to about, you know, wrap it up. This video's long. I'm putting out like probably an hour and a half or so of motherfucking videos probably later tonight if my hard drive gets in. So there's gonna be a lot for you guys to watch. Probably no one will watch it, so it is what it is. And that's how I'm gonna get out of here. So yeah, if you do watch my videos and you do like them and appreciate my perspectives, go ahead. Oh, I'm sorry. One more note. I am gonna be doing my preview video for the Niners game on Saturday, because we play them on Sunday. But real quick, I do want to note, they just, God damn it, I can't remember who it was, but they just lost another big name player from that team. So to season-ending injury. And the Bucks just lost O.J. Howard, I think, to an Achilles, and I think he's out for the season. The injuries are just absolutely absurd. And so anyway, you know, look, just real quick, like I said, I mean, going into the season, I wouldn't have thought there was a chance in hell that we would beat the San Francisco 49ers, but with all the injuries, especially the players that they've had injured, there's going to be some opportunity. So that could affect it. But again, to keep everything in full context, if the Dolphins should get a win or, you know, perform well, it is important for our evaluation to make sure we include that they did not have to play against Jimmy Garoppolo and Raheem Mostert and Nick Bosa and Solomon Thomas and whoever the additional person is that they just lost, right? So look, that's important. And again, also because it's going to be super difficult really to even evaluate teams at all this year because of the numerous different factors that don't really let you get a good look at the actual team themselves, right? And what they would be in a normal season, or, you know, if they are fully healthy, or et cetera, right? All right, now I'm going to get up out of here. I hope you guys appreciate my perspectives in my videos. If you do, make sure you hit the subscribe button, make sure you hit the like button, make sure you hit the bell if you want to get the alerts. Share my channel and videos with your friends and family. Leave your questions, comments, and concerns down in the comments section. And of course, as always, follow me on Twitter at Dillon Tartaro. And with that, I'm out. I'll see y'all soon. Phins up.